Hello, I'm from the Australian government with a big announcement. We're finally ready to look like we're taking stronger climate action.
That's right. While other nations are announcing bigger cuts to their emissions, we're announcing that we'll no longer use our Kyoto carryover credits to meet our targets.
And we'd appreciate everyone patting us on the dick for that.
What's that? You don't know the story of our Kyoto credits?
Thank fuck for that.
Because if you knew how much we've been cheating to shirk our responsibilities on the world stage, you'd literally die in the arse of shame.
A bit like how you felt when we cheated in the cricket.
Except the ball we've been tampering with and rubbing our nuts all over is the planet.
Introducing Cringe.
A collaboration between Scotty from marketing, Johnny from accounting, and Tony from cunting. Cringe has been our policy at climate summits for the past 2 decades.
Which is why to understand how this is just the latest chapter of Cringe, we need to take a trip back in time.
So let's go.
Hi, I'm from the Australian government. It's 1997 and the world is coming together in Kyoto for the first time to agree on targets to lower greenhouse emissions. Well, everyone except us. We're here to bitch and whinge about how we need special treatment. Because Australia...
Cringe!
So whilst basically every other wealthy nation committed to lowering emissions over the next decade, we got permission to increase ours. But we didn't stop there. Oh no. We then refused to sign the treaty unless the world agreed to let us start counting our emissions from a much higher baseline than we deserved. A bit like being the only kid that gets to start a race halfway down the track, or playing a test match with half the balls already tampered with. This bullshit was known as the Australia Clause, and we demanded its inclusion at 2 a.m. on the last night of the summit, threatening to scuttle the whole thing unless we got our way. And the final kick in the balls? Even after the world agreed to all our bullshit demands, Johnny still refused to ratify the Kyoto Protocol anyway. LOL.
Cringe! Hi, I'm from the Australian government. It's 2012 and the world is meeting in Doha to see how we all went with our Kyoto commitments. Most countries have worked hard to reduce their emissions, but not us. Ours have gone up a cubic shit ton. But since we started with that artificially high baseline, we got to keep polluting and we still met our target. In fact, we came in under our bullshit target, which meant we had a bullshit surplus. And that's how our bullshit Kyoto credits were born. But don't worry, at least this time when it came to setting our target for our next goal, we actually agreed to reduce our emissions by approximately fuck all. Sure, fuck all isn't much, but don't forget how we overachieved and got those credits.
Cringe!
You're probably thinking this shit couldn't possibly get more embarrassing.
Hold my stubby. Hi, I'm from the Australian government. It's 2015 and the world is meeting in Paris to address the worsening climate crisis. Other rich countries are pledging bigger emission cuts for their 2030 goal and voluntarily sacrificing their Kyoto credits, saying they go against the spirit of the Paris Accord. Fools. Meanwhile, Tony announced a piss week target. Not even half of what our own experts said was needed if we want to keep the reef. And we demanded to hang on to our bullshit Kyoto credits, even though it's not even legal under the Paris Accord to carry over credits from the Kyoto era. A bit like trying to claim expired Ansett points at Qantas. You have to wonder how we don't get punched in the fucking face every time we show up at these climate summits.
Cringe! Hi, I'm from the Australian government. We're back in the present and the world's on fire. And because we've done squat to reduce actual emissions for the past 2 decades, not only do we have the highest per capita emissions in the developed world, we've also managed to piss everyone off with all our bullshit.
But don't worry, Scotty's working hard to find new ways of marketing Cringe to the world as climate action.
By increasing our 2030 emission cuts like the UK just did? No.
By setting a net zero target like most nations and all our state governments have? Yeah, nah.
By cancelling our gas-led recovery and investing massively in renewables instead?
Fuck no. We're just promising not to use our Kyoto credits.
Credits we didn't deserve in the first place.
Which no other nation in the world is trying to claim.
And which aren't even legally valid anymore.
But which for years we tried to use anyway because fuck you.
And now that you know the story of our bullshit credits, you can fully appreciate the pure shitfuckery of saying that our contribution to global climate action will be to not use them.
A bit like our cricket team getting a medal for promising not to tamper with their balls anymore.
Because really, what we're saying by pledging not to use our bullshit credits is that instead of working harder like the rest of the world, we just promise to stop cheating.
Which in a way, when you think about it,
is still a way of using those bullshit credits. Cringe!
Authorised by the Department of Marketing and Accounting Tricks.